Imagine for a second that you possess world-class skills. I mean, you have the drive, the intelligence, and the raw talent to compete with absolutely anyone, anywhere on the globe.
Right, you've put in all the hard work.
Exactly. You've done everything right. But there's a catch. The piece of paper proving your expertise, your degree, basically is completely invisible to the global economy.
Oh man, that is an incredibly frustrating scenario to picture.
It really is. You are standing at the door of the global job market holding the key, but the lock just, it simply doesn't recognize the shape of the metal.
Yeah, you put in the years of study, but the system itself essentially refuses to read your credentials.
Welcome to today's deep dive.
Hmm.
So today's date is March 27, 2026, and we are unpacking a massive new press release from a company called EON AI Ventures.
And this is a big one.
Oh, it's huge. They've just announced the rollout of something called the Global Virtual Campus across Africa. And their stated mission is to completely rewire how global higher education credentials work on the continent.
Which, I mean, is no small feat.
Not at all. We are talking about delivering a top-ranked, fully accredited European university degree directly to a smartphone, and supposedly doing it for approximately 1% of the cost of a traditional study abroad program.
1%. It's
Yeah.
almost hard to wrap your head around that number.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. Because if they can actually pull this off, the implications for the global workforce are staggering.
Yeah, to really grasp why a platform like this is so potentially disruptive, we first need to look at the structural, real-world problem it is trying to solve.
Right.
And that begins with the sheer scale of Africa's demographic wave.
Right.
Right now, there are 12 million young Africans entering the labor force every single year.
12 million. Just to put that in perspective for you listening, that is more young people entering the workforce annually than on any other continent on the planet.
It's a massive influx of talent.
And we need to be clear about who we are talking about here. These aren't just arbitrary numbers. These are highly motivated, incredibly talented young people.
Absolutely.
We are talking about rigorous graduates from prestigious regional institutions like the University of Lagos, Maker University in Uganda, or the University of Cape Town.
Right. The barrier to their success has never been a lack of ability. The barrier is this systemic issue of global translation.
What do you mean by translation exactly?
Well, put yourself in the shoes of one of those top-tier graduates. You apply for a highly competitive corporate role in London, Dubai, or Singapore. You are going up against candidates from well-known Western universities.
And let's look at what actually happens in that hiring pipeline. Because, a hiring manager sitting in a high-rise in London looks at a stack of resumes, or more likely, their automated applicant tracking system does.
Yeah, usually an algorithm these days.
Exactly. And the system instantly recognizes and validates a degree from a UK or European school. But when it scans an African university credential, even from a brilliant, rigorous program, it often just kicks it back as unrecognized.
It's an efficiency bias. The global hiring machinery leans heavily toward the familiar.
Yeah, they just go with what they know.
Right. And because many of these regional African credentials aren't seamlessly integrated into international qualification frameworks, those graduates are essentially filtered out of the system before they ever get a chance to sit down for an interview and prove their worth.
It makes me think of having a state-of-the-art, incredibly powerful electrical device. I mean, the absolute best, most advanced technology on the market.
Okay, I like where this is going.
But you only have the wrong regional plug adapter. The immense power is right there, ready to go, but you physically cannot connect it to the global grid to be used.
Because the socket just doesn't accept the shape of your plug.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the voltage is even restricted because the system doesn't trust the connection.
That is a perfect way to visualize the friction. The global digital economy is that electrical grid, and the credentials are the wrong shape to plug in.
So how have African families historically navigated this? Because they aren't just sitting around accepting it.
No, not at all. They've responded in a completely rational way to a broken system. They spend billions of dollars, literally billions annually, sending their students to the UK, the UAE, and across Europe.
They are essentially forced to buy the right plug adapter at an exorbitant premium.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
We're talking about paying international tuition, securing visas, booking flights, and paying for housing in some of the most expensive cities in the world.
Which usually runs anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000 a year.
That is a massive financial burden for families.
Yeah.
I mean, totally out of reach for most.
But here's where this narrative shifts from a story about structural inequality to a story about an absolute ticking clock existential threat.
The ticking clock.
Yeah, and that clock is artificial intelligence.
Because the global job market isn't just sitting frozen in time while this credential gap exists. AI is actively changing the entry-level landscape right beneath our feet.
What's fascinating here is the specific localized data on this AI disruption. If you look at the 2026 Anthropic Economic Index, which tracks exactly how different industries are being automated, the numbers are startling.
What are we looking at?
AI is currently automating 62% of the financial services tasks that have historically absorbed Africa's best educated graduates.
Hold on, 62%. Wait, really?
Yes, 62%. That means if you are a graduate relying on a traditional entry-level white-collar job like data entry, basic financial analysis, junior coding, more than half of those stepping stone roles are just vanishing.
They're evaporating, and the data gets even more concentrated when you zoom in on the specific tech and financial hubs driving Africa's emerging middle class.
Give me an example.
Take Nairobi, for example, which is widely known as the Silicon Savannah. Their tech sector is facing a 70% AI exposure rate.
70%. Let's contextualize that for a second. 70% exposure in Nairobi means that out of every 10 entry-level coding or quality assurance jobs a new graduate might apply for today, 7 of them could realistically be handled by an algorithm by the time that graduate finishes their onboarding process.
It is a chilling reality for a 22-year-old trying to start a career.
It's incredibly daunting.
And the trend holds across the continent. In Cape Town, their massive business process outsourcing sector, think international customer support and professional services, is looking at 65% AI exposure.
Wow.
Lagos's booming fintech sector sits at 62%, Accra's finance sector is at 60%, and Cairo's government administration sector is facing a 55% exposure rate.
So if we piece this all together, you have the largest youth entry wave in the world trying to plug into a global economy that refuses to recognize their credentials. Right at the exact moment that AI is rapidly eating the very entry-level jobs they usually rely on to get a foothold.
The timing couldn't be worse. And the traditional workaround, spending billions of dollars to fly to Europe to study, is fundamentally too slow, far too expensive, and just structurally incapable of handling a crisis of this magnitude.
Exactly. You cannot solve a scalable systemic crisis with a slow, highly individualized workaround.
It just doesn't compute.
Because the traditional solution is so fundamentally incompatible with a rapidly automating AI-driven job market, a radically new, hyperscalable delivery method isn't just a nice idea. It is an absolute requirement.
Which brings us to the concept of leapfrogging.
Yes, leapfrogging.
If you follow global economics, you know this is the defining characteristic of African technological development. We saw it with telecom, right? Africa didn't spend decades slowly building out fixed-line telephone poles to every rural village.
No, they completely skipped that era and leapfrogged directly to mobile cellular networks.
And they did the exact same thing with personal finance.
Right. Yeah, they didn't build brick-and-mortar bank branches on every corner. They leapfrogged straight into mobile money systems like M-Pesa, years before the West adopted mobile payments.
And what EON AI Ventures is arguing in this press release is that the global virtual campus represents that exact leapfrog moment, but applied to 4-year higher education.
They are attempting to skip the massive, capital-intensive phase of pouring concrete, buying land, and building physical brick-and-mortar university campuses to serve those 12 million annual graduates.
Which would take decades and trillions of dollars.
Right. Instead, they are delivering the entire university degree directly to the technology that people already have in their pockets.
But we need to seriously examine the tech reality of how they're actually doing this. Because, I mean, the historical failure of Western educational platforms in emerging markets is that they just take a portal designed for California or London and slap it onto a mobile browser.
Yeah, they just port it over and expect it to work.
Which assumes the user has high-speed broadband and a laptop. If you try to run a heavy Western video lecture platform on a spotty cellular connection, it just buffers endlessly, crashes, or becomes totally unusable.
It's a terrible user experience, but the global virtual campus, according to the release, is completely different. They emphasize that it is mobile first from its absolute inception.
Mobile first?
Yeah, it operates entirely on 3G infrastructure. Not 4G, not 5G, 3G.
Wait, 3G? Just 3G?
Just 3G. And it is fully functional on a smartphone with zero need for a laptop or a broadband Wi-Fi connection.
That is wild. But by engineering the entire platform for a 3G threshold, you instantly democratize access, don't you?
Absolutely. You aren't just serving the wealthy neighborhoods in Tier 1 cities. You are reaching deep into rural communities where 3G is the absolute maximum bandwidth available.
And they are radically breaking down the language barrier, too. The platform delivers this European degree in Swahili, Hausa, Amharic, Zulu, Yoruba, French, Arabic, and Portuguese.
The language aspect is huge.
Think about the cognitive load of trying to learn complex, high-level financial or engineering concepts in your second or third language.
Oh, it's exhausting.
By allowing you to learn in your native tongue, it fundamentally changes comprehension and retention.
It levels the playing field. Then there is the economic model. Because there is no physical campus, no dormitories, and no reliance on expensive personal hardware like laptops, they claim they can deliver this for approximately 1% of the cost of a traditional study abroad program.
Okay, I hear that 1% cost figure, and if studying abroad is $10,000 a year, 1% is $100.
Right.
That shatters the financial barrier. But, and I have to push back, here we are looking at a press release. The promise of delivering a rigorous European university degree over a 3G smartphone connection without a laptop. It sounds a bit utopian.
It definitely sounds like a tall order.
Doesn't that inherently risk watering down the quality of the education? How do they ensure precision in a high-stakes learning environment on such limited hardware? I mean, if I'm studying advanced engineering, how does a 3G connection handle complex visual models without crashing my phone?
It is the most vital question to ask. If you're shrinking a university into a 3G phone, the assumption is that something major is lost in translation.
Right.
But this is where the specific background of EON AI Ventures becomes the linchpin of the operation. The CEO, Dan Lajerskar, and his team have 25 years of experience specifically in immersive learning and extended reality, or XR.
Okay, and just for you listening, think of XR as an umbrella term for virtual and augmented reality. Basically, the ability to put a digital 3D engine or a virtual financial terminal right on your desk, viewed through your phone screen.
Exactly. And crucially, EON knows how to optimize those complex XR educational tools for limited hardware bandwidth. They have something like 136 million platform downloads globally.
So they know what they're doing.
They do. They don't try to stream massive, heavy virtual environments live over 3G like a continuous video feed. That would crash instantly.
So how do they do it?
They use hyper-compressed data and edge computing. Essentially, the core assets can be downloaded during off-peak hours, and the actual processing happens locally on the phone itself.
Okay, so the phone is doing the heavy lifting, not the network. That explains the bandwidth workaround. But what about the teaching itself? The press release explicitly states they built this platform for environments where precision matters.
They are making a very important distinction regarding AI in education here. They point out that generic, off-the-shelf AI, the kind we interact with daily, often only delivers about 80% quality or accuracy.
Yeah, hallucinates, it guesses, or it approximates an answer.
Exactly. But when you are training someone for a high-stakes professional environment, 80% accuracy is dangerous. High-stakes operations require 100% precision.
So they are just plugging a generic chatbot into a curriculum and calling it a day.
No, they are using highly specific, precision-trained AI to guide the student. And this is actually part of a larger strategy they call the Sovereign Human Initiative.
The Sovereign Human Initiative.
Yeah, the whole goal of that initiative is to combat the very AI workforce displacement we were talking about earlier. They are using specialized AI to upskill humans faster than generic AI can replace them.
It's fighting fire with a very carefully controlled, highly targeted fire.
Exactly.
But even if we accept that they have solved the technical puzzle, delivering robust, high-quality XR content to a 3G smartphone, that still only solves half the problem.
True.
Right? Because we established earlier that the core barrier isn't a lack of knowledge. The real boss level of this game is the bureaucracy of global accreditation.
Oh, absolutely.
Tech alone doesn't get you hired in London, the piece of paper does. The adapter plug. So how does an app on a smartphone actually guarantee global recognition for the person using it? How did they hack the accreditation system?
This is where the heavy-hitting institutional partnerships pull the whole concept together. EON AI Ventures didn't just invent a new digital certificate out of thin air.
They did just make up their own diploma.
Plus, the degree delivered on the platform is powered by the University for Business and Technology, or UBT.
And UBT brings some serious verifiable legitimacy stats to the table. According to the WURI Global Rankings, which are independently published and annually verified, UBT is actually ranked number 6 in the world for industry and innovation.
That ranking is a critical metric because it's something employers in destination markets actively recognize.
Right.
But the true cornerstone of the legitimacy is their accreditation. UBT holds a 4-year British Accreditation Council, or BAC, recognition, certified through 2025.
We should explain what that actually means,
Yeah.
because the BAC recognition is essentially the golden ticket in international education.
It really is. It's a massive trust signal.
The BAC rigorously audits a university's curriculum, their faculty standards, and their testing methods. So, if you hold a degree with BAC recognition, a hiring manager in London or Dubai doesn't have to guess if your education was rigorous.
The British Accreditation Council has already done all the heavy lifting of verifying it for them.
Furthermore, UBT operates across multiple physical European campuses, boasts over 15,000 active students, and maintains a 98% graduate employment rate.
98%. And their diplomas are recognized for transfer at over 500 universities across the European Union and the United States.
So when a student in a rural village in Kenya finishes this mobile-first program, they aren't getting a digital certificate of completion from some Silicon Valley tech startup.
No, not at all.
They're receiving a fully accredited, globally recognized European university credential, the exact same credential they would have gotten if they had paid $15,000 to fly to Europe and sit in a physical brick-and-mortar classroom.
Which perfectly solves the credential gap for the individual student.
It hands them the adapter plug.
Exactly. But the true genius of the global virtual campus model is how it practically integrates with the financial and governmental layers of the African continent.
Right. It goes deeper than just the individual.
It does. The accreditation isn't just recognized by Western employers. It is specifically designed to be compatible with the funding requirements of the World Bank and the African Development Bank, or AFDB.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about the massive incentives this creates for local African universities.
Oh, the incentives are huge.
If you are the rector of an African university, your biggest structural problem is brain drain. Your wealthiest or most ambitious students want a British-accredited degree, so they leave the country.
They take their talent and their tuition dollars and they go to Europe.
Exactly. But with this platform, local universities can actually co-credential.
Let's walk through how co-credentialing actually works on the ground because it's fascinating.
Please do.
A student who wants that global recognition no longer has to leave their home country. They enroll at their local institution in, say, Nigeria. They might attend local in-person seminars or use local study groups for social engagement, but their core curriculum, their XR immersive modules, and their rigorous testing are delivered through the European 3G platform.
So when they graduate, their transcript shows they passed the rigorously audited European standards, giving them a dual stamp of approval.
Exactly. It completely transforms diaspora enrollment.
You retain your brightest minds within your own borders while still giving them the global adapter plug they need.
And because the program meets the strict accreditation requirements of the World Bank and the AFDB, these local African universities can suddenly access massive development finance channels that they previously couldn't tap into.
Wow. So it is a massive influx of potential capital for local institutions to modernize.
And it's not just the universities either. EON's platform aligns with the national qualifications frameworks, the NQFs in major economies like South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria.
And for context, an NQF is basically the official government ledger of what educational qualifications mean in that specific country.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes clear why national governments are the ultimate target for this deployment.
Why is that?
Well, the African Union has a developmental framework called Agenda 2063, and human capital is a massive pillar of that vision. The question governments face is, how do you rapidly upskill a population to meet the demands of the 21st century without going completely bankrupt?
So from a governmental perspective, a Ministry of Education can just deploy this platform nationally.
Yes.
They can instantly provide world-class, globally recognized workforce infrastructure for millions of citizens. And they can do it with zero capital expenditure on physical campus buildings.
Zero. No pouring concrete, no buying land, no building massive dormitory complexes.
You just partner with the platform, align it with your national framework, and suddenly, every citizen with a 3G smartphone has access to a number 6 world-ranked university degree.
It's revolutionary. The press release explicitly states that the government that moves first on this secures a national and continental headline that no competitor can replicate.
They define this generation's credential standard.
It's essentially a race to see which nation will execute the Leapfrog first.
Now, I do think we have to maintain a healthy dose of skepticism here.
Of course.
As an app-based model, we have to wonder how student engagement and dropout rates will compare when you don't have the in-person social pressure of a physical classroom.
That's a very fair point.
It's-
Motivation is hard to maintain on a screen.
And even at 1% of the cost, we don't fully know if the telecom data costs are factored in or if that becomes a hidden fee for the student. But if the core mechanics of this press release hold true, the shift is monumental.
The foundational pieces, the 3G compression, the XR learning, the BAC accreditation, the co-credentialing model, they are all proven mechanisms.
Right.
EON is just assembling them in a way that bypasses the traditional gatekeepers.
So what does this all mean? Let's trace the journey we've just been on together today. We started by looking at a massive demographic advantage. 12 million highly motivated young Africans entering the workforce every single year.
An incredible pool of talent.
But their potential was being stifled by an invisible barrier, a credential recognition gap that kept them locked out of the global market.
And that barrier was rapidly becoming an acute crisis because AI, specifically in the financial, administrative, and tech sectors, is simultaneously threatening to automate up to 70% of the entry-level tasks those graduates traditionally rely on to start their careers.
The traditional solution spending billions to physically send students to Western brick-and-mortar universities was too slow, too expensive, and structurally incapable of meeting the scale of the challenge.
So EON AI Ventures engineered a Leapfrog solution.
They didn't build more physical classrooms. They built a mobile-first, 3G-compatible, multilingual platform that delivers a fully accredited, globally ranked European degree directly to a smartphone.
And they engineered it for a fraction of the cost, ensuring precision learning through targeted XR rather than hallucinating generic AI.
It is an absolute masterclass in adapting global standards to local infrastructural realities. They didn't ask the environment to change to fit the technology. They built the technology to seamlessly plug into the environment.
Which leaves us with a rather profound question to consider as we wrap up.
It really shifts the entire paradigm of what a university actually is. Think about this. If a number 6, world-ranked, fully accredited, rigorous European university degree could be successfully delivered entirely on a 3G smartphone.
In a student's native language.
Right, in their native language, for a fraction of the traditional cost. What does that mean for the future of the multi-thousand-dollar physical Western university system?
It's a great question.
In 5 or 10 years, will those sprawling, incredibly expensive traditional campus degrees be viewed as the outdated fixed-line telephones of the education world?
It certainly makes you wonder how long the physical adapter plug will remain relevant when the entire grid goes wireless.
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the global virtual campus. Keep questioning the evolving world of knowledge, and we'll catch you next time as we unpack the next big leap.